Welcome to the Authentic Leaders Rising podcast, where high achieving entrepreneurs and leaders come to receive deep, insightful conversations and practical guidance to move from hustle to flow without sacrificing their authentic self and the results. I am your host and Chief Energy Officer, Tammy Cho, a former patient care leader turned international best-selling author, speaker, and face and body analysis expert. Get ready to lead your authenticity, lead your energy, and lead your impact. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Authentic Leaders Rising. Special welcome to all of you. Thank you for spending your energy here. I appreciate it. Today, we're going to dive into something that is definitely not mainstream, but it's highly effective in creating a spiritual alignment, bringing the magic into your life, to tap into the universe, God's spirit, as sort of like a coach for you. And I'm talking about my recent experience of getting on an airplane and the travel chaos behind that, and how this turned into one of the greatest lessons, divine lessons for myself in trust, in leadership, and clarity of the journey that is unfolding before me. And I like to use, like, whenever I go on planes, it's quite symbolic of taking off to a next era, taking off to a next evolution of your soul, taking off to your next level of impact. And so life is quite metaphoric in many ways, and how spirit often speaks to us is through metaphors, is to the things that happen around us in our environment, because what is happening outside of ourselves is often a direct reflection of what's going on in our inner worlds, whether that's conscious or unconscious. So it really gives a lot of information if you know how to set your intention and pay attention to these things that are happening in our everyday lives. And truly, when you start to see life in this way and you bring that alignment within your body, mind, heart, soul, it just makes life seem a lot more magical. It happens with a lot more ease and flow. And so this is why I like to teach this to my clients, to really incorporate this into their lives and to really bring the magic in, bring the alignment, bring the flow. And so let's dive right in. And so recently I was invited to speak on stage for the first time in front of a lot of talent acquisition leaders, people leaders, and was my first time. And my client had invited me. I was actually the one that encouraged her to create this event. So what a joy to have her invite me to speak at it. And I had the blessing to show her before and after pictures where her face entirely changed working with me a one-to-one in a very personalized way. And as I was getting ready for this trip, my flights, right? I was all packed up and ready, all ready to go. I had my talk already. I felt fairly good about it. And so because I was going on this flight, one of the things I like to do is to set an intention. I like to set the intention that going on this flight, going on the stage, all these pieces that I was literally stepping into is going to be my stepping stone into my next evolution, my next impact, so to speak. And so I had consciously set an intention for myself to have this be a representation of this for me. And so, of course, what happened was that as I'm getting ready to go on my flight and getting dinner in, because I had booked a evening flight to sleep through it, and I started getting, I got the first delay, and then I got the second delay. And the third, I think I ended up with like 7 total delays. And I had to rebook my flight 2 and sort of 3 times, in order to arrive. And so that's very interesting. And so let me just break this all down and how the universe, God's spirit, actually speaks to us to show us what are the next necessary steps. Because remember, I had set the intention to go on this trip and to have it be the metaphor for what is to may happen for me as we move forward. And so when I set the intention, the delays came. Of course, I'm on the phone because I'm realizing if I delay, the first flight, I'm going to miss my second flight. And then there was also snow happening on that flight. And so I had called in and I had asked her, what can we do? Like, what are there other options? And it's like, it keeps on delaying and will it even fly? Will I make my next flight? All these questions that you ask, when your flights are delayed, right? And so she's like, oh, well, the only options you leave the next day. And these are the flight options, right? And I was like, oh, well, I actually want to be there for the pre speaking dinner. And I don't want to just arrive, obviously, the day of the event, right? And so I kept on asking. I kept on asking her, asking questions towards what I wanted, not asking questions towards what I don't want. It's really important to learn to ask questions towards what you actually want. And so this is what I did. And I asked her, please look at the other flights that are possible to fly out. And, initially she gave me that this is the only options, right? As I was asking questions towards what I wanted and not to just give up on the first answer I received, she was able to find two other options, which was beautiful. I was able to book a new flight. So I'm like, oh, yay, and as I'm booking this, there's yet another delay, right? And so when I received that, this really taught me, first of all, to not give up, to keep asking questions in different ways to get what I wanted. And so I was like, whoa, this is good. This is really good because I know this process. I'm like already conscious on the teachings that were unfolding before me. And also that on my journey to my next evolution, will there be delays? So I had this awareness in my embodiment on another episode I shared around how my body was actually showing me it's actually uh, the long road for me. My body, and how it's actually expressing to me that it needs to go slowly, one step at a time, versus like going really quickly. And so this 7 delays really brought that information full circle for me. And I had a double confirmation on the fact that there are delays. And interestingly enough, like I had booked a recent psychic reading because I do that once every 6 months just for fun to see if my intuition matches. And she also said it's actually a timing thing. And she's going into astrology and why. And I don't really know that, but I'm aware that for my purpose to be fully expressed, it's actually around 2027 to fully take off. And so she had confirmed this too. So how interesting is this? Anyways, that's a sidebar. I just wanted to, like, sometimes these things, like, we don't trust it because we're hearing all these things outside of ourselves that we must get there faster and must do it better and must be more efficient at doing things. But what if that's not how it's meant to unfold? So, anyways, very interesting, right? And so here I am asking questions. I got the new flight that worked for me because I got to go to bed and sleep for the next day to wake up early. And so that's what I did. And I arrived at the airport, checked in and everything, and there I am. And the flight got delayed again. Oh my goodness, my next connecting flight looks like I might potentially miss it if this keeps going on. So I get myself in line and I'm speaking to the travel agent and I'm asking her what's happening, what are the possibilities and all these kind of things. And she's like, oh yeah, like I think you still have some time. So I think you're okay to wait and just see. And so I moved away. And of course, like it was delayed yet again. It's so very interesting as I'm like standing back in line to speak to her. It's like it showed me the contrast, if you will, how I was actually showing up in this moment of asking her the question, kind of being a little bit more not necessarily in my power, just seeing what she says kind of energy. And as I was waiting there, realizing that, oh, wow, it looks like I probably will highly likely miss my second flight. What I learned in the first phone call before on the first flight delays is that they were able to actually book me on another flight with their partners. So I don't actually need to get on the same flight. And so now I was on Air Canada, got rebooked onto United. And so I wasn't really sure, what was actually available within this airline. But I took that knowledge that I gained from the first phone call and I had looked online on all the possible flights that would actually get me there on time. And it was that exact one that was brought up to me yesterday that didn't arrive as early. It arrived later, but I would still get there just in time for the start of dinner. And so it's actually very synchronistic that that exact flight was brought up to me. So I had that awareness. And so God is always leaving these crumbs for us to connect to. Once we don't know what that looks like and why it's there, but we know it's for something. And in this moment, I was able to see that. And I brought my energy and I found the exact flight. And I said to her, this is where I need to go. And I need to get there by this time. I need you to book this. And so I was in my power. I was asking specifically for what I wanted with through an energy of conviction. And I have to say, right, this is something that I tend to be a little bit soft sometimes. And I'm not always in my conviction around things, especially if it's every day. Like I'm more convicted when I want to get my clients' results and things like this. However, in every day, sometimes I'm more laid back. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this is God is showing me that if I want to move to my next level, there may be delays. There may be times that I got to keep asking questions towards what I want versus talking about things I don't want and asking more questions, not just giving up right away, to go deeper into things, right? And through that, I got openings into what was available beyond even what the other person, the travel agent, was able to see initially. Because she literally said there was no options. And even though I would think she would know to look at another partner airline, right? It's like she didn't go there until I asked. And it always comes back to a beingness we bring to a situation that actually opens the energy in the other person. This is all very interesting how it was unfolding, right? And in this next scenario with how I asked with conviction, that's where I need to step into if I want to go into my next evolution for myself, my next layer of impact, to really be convicted, ask for specifically what I wanted. And that's when everything flowed. So I was like, this other flight, I was already checked in onto another flight. So I had to actually run into the other terminal. And I got on the flight and I got to my event at the beginning of dinner. I didn't miss dinner or anything like that. It was beautiful. Like I was welcomed by someone I met online a long time ago. And she was so excited to see me. And it was beautiful. And I rocked the stage. It was my first time speaking, but like I really commanded the room, and it brought a lot of connections, paid opportunities for me, and it was quite amazing how I was able to command the room. And so maybe I'll go into another episode around that on the next one. But what I want to highlight here is that these pieces that were steps that showed me clarity on who I need to be, how I need to approach things, that there will be delays going into my next level, and it's okay. It's part of the journey. And sometimes like these, when we set an intention to look at things in this what seems like a convoluted way, but when we start to pay attention and to really write down these things, it really builds that deeper trust and intuition in God and spirit, and how the language of our soul speaks to us to create this alignment and flow and magic to come into our lives. And this shows me step by step, literally a map to guide me to where I need to go. And when I returned, I was like, oh, very lovely. Snowfall warning where I live. And I was like, I'm setting the intention to surrender to this. And I would really love to be home to be with my daughters and celebrate the rest of Chinese New Year. And it was very smooth. There was a snowfall warning, but we landed safely. I think we were just like 15 minutes late, so it wasn't a big deal. And I got a ride home, and it was just a smooth landing, even though people are telling us there are warnings and things like this, that it opened me up to return safely, that knowing that God is supporting me in this way. You may listen to this and saying, oh, well, Tammy's making up shit and making up stories. And you know what? To some extent, that may be true. However, we must ask ourselves, right? What kind of stories are we telling ourselves anyway that are not true? All the shit that goes on in our head. Like, we might as well make up something that is going to support us. And when we are connected to our intuition in this way, we're connected to our body. It's like you have that knowingness. When these things are happening, when we set the intention, we're looking at these things, right? It's about staying connected with your body. Like, do you feel like that is your intuition? Do you see the alignment? Do you get oh yeah, do you get that inspiration, right? These are all ways God's spirit, our soul, speaks to us. And yet we're not paying attention to it. So we're not seeing how it's actually being communicated, and how when we start to match up the pieces, you can see all of it falling together. And I have a lot of clients that are like, oh my goodness, Tammy, this is like exactly, if this didn't happen, this wouldn't happen. It's like, oh my God, it's so perfectly imperfect. We hear this often, that people speak about this, and this is exactly how it works. And so I hope that this has opened your eyes to see life and the world in an entirely different way, to really serve you on your journey, and to really develop this trust in your intuition, in your embodiment, in the divine source, God, however you want to do that, however you connect to that. And this is a piece of, it's really a new type of leadership, like energy leadership, being able to read and connect to energy, because our thoughts are energy, like our emotions are energy, our body is energy, soul is energy. Like, literally, we're learning to lead all these different realms of ourselves. This is like the new leadership, if you will, to see life in this way. And the beauty of it is that when you allow yourself and stay connected to yourself in this way to align it all, everything outside of you starts to align exactly to your highest and greatest good. And so this is the amazingness of these pieces of really bringing these type of intentional, conscious, energetic creations from the world that is actually tangible, but through a space that is actually very intangible. And it's just choosing to be and show up in a different way. And this is what I build. So, working with my clients, I teach them how to create spiritual efficiency, bringing these pieces together, how to tap into these different layers to really problem solve and create what they want, and to know when it's time to surrender and not have to hustle and push. There's a time for the masculine energy of pushing and doing, and there's a time of surrender and to slow down and pay attention to all the lessons that are all around us, if we allow ourselves to be conscious and aware and to receive it, to let it in. But none of this happens if we're not bringing presence, we're not slowing down, we're not raising our level of consciousness to see it. So I hope that this has sparked an opening in you in ways that maybe it hasn't opened up in you for a while. Maybe you've heard of this again. I just really want to bring the magic that is all available all around us. When you tap into this energy of abundance and to allow it in this way, you're receiving more life into you. Flow happens when we know how to receive. And so if this is something that you're really intrigued by, you don't quite understand it, but you feel like a calling to have a conversation around it, please reach out to me. You could go to pathtotheheart.com/links to get a hold of me. You can contact me through my website, through the contact form. I'd love to connect with you and support you to dive deeper into your passion, your mission, your leadership, to create your next level of success and to live to your highest potential that you are meant for, and you know it. And lots of love to you. I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Authentic Leaders Rising podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review so others can find the life-changing content that we're sharing here. We are starting our movement on our way to number one, and we need your help to get there. If you'd like to connect with other high-achieving entrepreneurs and leaders who are also on their authentic, energetic leadership journey, join our free Facebook community, Energetically Aligned Leaders. Go to pathtotheheart.com/links to join the Facebook group, book your personalized face analysis experience, or to access our resources.